Are you looking for new and improved settings for Warzone 3 Season 5 Reloaded? Well, today I'm here to provide you the best settings possible. I'm going to be going over an in-depth settings so that you can have the smoothest gameplay and have great frames for this new season. Alrighty, to start off, make sure that you go into your GeForce experience and you got to make sure that your drivers are fully updated. If they're fully updated, you'll see that it says you have the latest GeForce Game Ready driver, which is the 560.94. Make sure that you have that set up. If you're having issues with this driver, you can revert back to an older driver that may be more optimal, but otherwise make sure that it's fully updated to have the best, smoothest experience possible for your gameplay. You can go ahead and exit out of that. And next you'll want to check is your Windows settings. Make sure you type in the search bar here and click in on check for updates. On Windows Update, if it's all fully set up, it'll say you're up to date. You can check over here just to double check to see if there's any optional settings or any required updates that you need to update. Once you get this green check mark, then you'll be all set and ready to go. And there's the check mark. You can go ahead and exit out of that window. If there was any updates as far as what you've seen, you can go ahead and restart your computer so that all the settings are optimized, all good to go. Another thing you can do is you can go to your command prompt over here. Make sure you run it as administrator before launching it. Click yes. And one command you can type in is sfc/scan now. Make sure to type that in. What this does is that it checks to see if there's any corrupt files or anything corrupt on your computer so that everything is going to be running smoothly. And once you have that done, restart your computer and you should be all good to go. Next, what you'll want to do is to make sure that you go into your settings. Once you load up into the settings, you can go to the section where it says called gaming. Make sure you go to game bar and make sure that your game bar is off so you don't have this running in the background. Another thing I would recommend is to make sure to have all running apps in the background to be turned off so that you don't allow your computer to have to multitask so many different applications, so that your PC is primarily focusing on your gameplay. Once you've done that, go back to your gaming tab and go to game mode and make sure that your game mode is set to on. Go to graphics. Go to change default graphics settings if you're on Windows 11, or if you're on this page, you'll be able to pull it right up where it shows hardware accelerated GPU scheduling. Now, some people have questioned whether to have this on or off. Many people in the past had this off since that was the preferred setting to have off, but now you're going to want to turn it on so that your latency has improved performance and so that your PC is not getting overrun with the acceleration. Next, what you'll want to do is to right click on your mouse, go to show more options and go to NVIDIA control panel. Now you're going to see the settings where it shows adjust image settings with preview. You can leave it as quality. You're going to want to select the option that says use the advanced 3D image settings. You're going to want to click take me there. Then you'll see these settings over here. You're going to want to have most of these settings off, like image scaling, ambient occlusion, anisotropic filtering. You're going to want to have anti-aliasing mode application controlled. And so just follow these settings and make sure to have all these settings as applied into these 3D settings, as you can see. You're going to want the CUDA system fallback policy set to prefer system fallback. And as you scroll down, you'll be able to see where it says OpenGL rendering GPU. Make sure you select the current GPU you have in your PC. For me, it's the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090. Make sure you set it to that preference. For power management mode, make sure to set it to prefer maximum performance so that you're getting the performance you need. On the preferred refresh rate, used to be 100 gigs of data for when using Call of Duty, but now you're going to want to set it to the highest available. For the shader cache size, make sure to set it to driver default. Texture filtering, you're going to want to set it to quality. And these are all the settings you're going to want to use for your Call of Duty Warzone game. Next, you're going to want to go to change resolution right over here. Make sure that you go underneath on this side to where it shows the PC resolution plus that is underneath the PC tab, so you don't select one that doesn't allow you the refresh rate you need, and make sure to select the refresh rate that matches your monitor. If you decide you want to change your resolution of your monitor, you can do so as needed, but preferably use the native resolution that is set to your monitor as you've been given. You'll then want to go to the option that says adjust desktop color settings. I would prefer to have the brightness set up to 50%, have the contrast set up to 65%, gamma at 1.0. Usually the best way to know what brightness you prefer is using using the third image over here. I like to have the digital vibrance at 95% and the hue at 0. Also make sure that each of these windows that you're also pressing the apply so that you are applying every setting that you need to apply to. Next, we're going to go to configure surround physicists, and you're going to want to go to the processor section. Make sure that if you have a higher end GPU that is able to take in better performance, make sure you select your dedicated GPU. If you're more of a CPU runner on your PC, if you have the firepower for that, if it's a very high end CPU, make sure you choose the CPU option. But for this tutorial, I prefer to use the GPU since that's going to be primarily what your game is going to be run on. You can then go ahead and apply all the settings and then exit out. Next, what you're going to want to do is go to your file explorer. Make sure you go to your documents, go to Call of Duty, select players. You'll then want to select the options .4.cod23, and you're going to want to open it as Notepad. The one you're going to want to pay attention to the most is the thread count for handling the job queue. So this one, to determine what your thread count is, you're going to want to check into Task Manager. So this is going to be for your dedicated CPU. You're going to want to check in this section over here, your CPU, and check how many cores your CPU can take. For my case, since I'm running an Intel i9-13900K CPU, it is set to 24 cores. And the maximum over here, as you can see, is 16. If you have a really high-end CPU, you can set it to 16. Anything on the average side, I would recommend setting it to 8. If it's on a lower-end CPU, I would recommend setting it to either 4 or 8. Once you have made the changes and typed in the selected number, you'll want to make sure that you go to File and make sure to set it to save. Once you have all the applied settings, you will press the exit button. And now we're going to show you the settings in the actual game itself. Once you have launched your game Call of Duty, you're going to want to go to the settings config symbol and make sure to go to your graphics. In your graphics, the display mode, this is kind of a personal preference. If you have a one monitor setup, I would suggest using it the full screen exclusive, although it will not hurt if you use the full screen borderless option. I would prefer either the full screen exclusive, but if you're a person like a streamer or a gamer that has multiple monitors, I would recommend setting it as full screen borderless. Make sure that your display adapter is set to the dedicated GPU that it's set to. Your refresh rate, make sure that it's set to the refresh rate of your monitor. For your display resolution, make sure to set it to the correct resolution. You're going to want to scroll to the bottom where it says display gamma. 2.2 means that you are running a monitor for your gaming, and the 2.4 means that you're running a television as your screen. If you have a high-end gaming monitor, you can sometimes get away with the 2.4, but preferably it's best to set it to 2.2. But if you have a monitor, set it to 2.2. If you have a TV, set it to 2.4. Next, you're going to want to go to the setting where it shows NVIDIA reflex latency on here. Make sure to not put it to off. You're going to want low latency mode on. So if you have a very high-end PC, I'd recommend putting it set to on. But if you have a low to mid-tier PC, I would recommend setting it to on plus boost. This is what helps your PC to be able to run more optimally. This is where you're able to get the GPU to overclock or run with such good frequency, and so that the CPU and the GPU are able to have a good healthy balance to run your game optimally. You're going to want to set to your eco mode preset to efficiency, set your VSync gameplay to off, your VSync menu set to 100%, custom frame rate limit. This is kind of a personal preference. If you want to just run the frames that you want and just see what your PC can run, set it to unlimited. Otherwise, you can set it to custom and set to whatever your display can handle. For my case, you can put it just slightly above the frame rate that it can for the hertz. I would set mine to 250 since it could do 240 hertz. The menu custom frame rate, it's not going to matter setting it to a lower amount. Your gameplay will run fine if you don't leave it idle for so long. Just make sure that you're running the game and you'll be just fine. It will not damage your PC if you have it set to just normal frames. Set the menu render resolution to optimal. You can set the focus mode to 90. And so now we're going to go to the quality tab. This one is going to have certain preferences as to what quality settings to set up for. As for me, what I like to personally run is NVIDIA DLSS. I like to set it normally to quality so that you're able to get good quality of gaming. And I normally run it around 60 or 70 as the sharpness of the game. Make sure to set the path tracing plus ray reconstruction to off. You do not need to have the settings to be overboard and cause your game to stutter, so make sure you set this to off. For VRAM scale target, I would recommend to set it between 50 to 70. If you are deciding to do NVIDIA DLSS, do not turn this on as it will cause your game to stutter. It will also cause your game to be stiff. Make sure to set this to off. It is not worth having this crazy extra frames. Make sure to set it to off. Another one that I would recommend to use is also in the NVIDIA DLSS preset. If you don't have as high of a quality PC, you can either set it to balanced or performance. If you have a lower tier PC, I'd recommend to set it to ultra performance, but preferably balanced or performance is the way to go. If you have a higher end PC, set it to quality. Another upscaling recommendation is you can do Intel XS if you have a Intel build. Another one I would also recommend is setting it to Fidelity X Cache. This one is going to make your game more sharp and it's going to be easier to find enemies across your screen. Next, you're going to want to scroll down to texture resolution. I'd recommend to set it to normal. You can have the game still look pretty decent if you set it to normal settings. If you set it to very low or low, the game quality is not going to look as good and it's not worth it gaining the extra frames just because of lowering it to that setting. Make sure to have the depth of field setting to off for detail quality level. You're not going to need to see a very high quality of the parts of the game. I'd recommend setting to both low. Bullet impact set to on. Persistent effects, make sure to turn that off. For shader quality, you do not need to see the settings of where you see very specific details like the water here in the picture. I would set it to low. For on-demand texture streaming, I would set it to optimized. For local texture streaming quality, you can just leave it as normal. And so for these next few settings, shadow quality, you're going to want to set it to very low. Screen space shadows to off. Ambient occlusion set to off. Screen space reflections to off. Static reflection quality set to low. So you're going to want to set these to as low or off as possible. Tessellation off. Volumetric quality to low. Deferred physics quality set to off. Weather grid volume set to off. I don't know why this is a setting in the game. Water quality set to off. Once you have gotten all those settings done, make sure to press apply settings and press confirm. Next, where you're going to want to go to is your view tab. Set your field of view. This you can set it to. Normally, I'd recommend for PC users is normally have it either between the numbers of 100 at the lowest end and at the highest end set it to 120. I normally like to do 120. Some people believe that with a tighter screen, you're able to get better aim assist if you're a controller player. Personally, I don't see normally the difference. I normally like to run it at 120 FOV. For ADS field of view, make sure to set it to affected. For weapon field of view, I would recommend setting it to wide. For vehicle field of view, I would set it to wide. For world motion blur, this thing, I don't know how people deal with this setting. I would set it to off. Weapon motion blur, I would set to off. Film grain, set it to 0. For first person camera movement, I would set it to default 100%. Everything else, you can pretty much leave it as is. I also like to put the inverted flashbang setting on so you don't get flashed by a super bright white screen, but this is kind of a personal preference. If you don't like a bright white screen when you get flashbanged, set it to on, and if you don't mind it, then just leave it to off. Once you're done with all of these settings, make sure you hit on the apply. You're going to want to go to interface, and then you're going to want to screen at the bottom where it shows color customization. And this is where you're able to change the colors. So in this case, you can set yourself to purple if you want to set your own color. You can set your team to blue or set it to other colors. And this is kind of a personal preference so that you can actually see your enemies. Some people like to keep it as red. Some people like to set it as pink or purple so that it's more of a distinct color, but you can choose whatever works best for your preference. What's also really cool is you can also go to color filter down here and you can actually select different filters that match the kind of coloring that you like to choose, and so that it matches the kind of shading that works for your view. Once you're done, you can set to apply, and then next you're going to want to go back to the graphics settings, and you're going to want to scroll down into where it says restart shaders preloading. Make sure that once you have every setting done, everything that you want to tweak in terms of your graphic settings, make sure you press shaders preloading info. And then once you're done with that, press close, and you're going to want to restart your game. Restarting your game is going to allow you to be able to have all of the settings and the updates fully applied to your game, and so that it's able to integrate without any issues. So after restarting your game, you're going to be seeing at the top left of your screen where it shows shaders preloading. It may take a little bit to get your shaders to be fully optimized. And so that is the settings for this video. Thank you guys again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments below if this tutorial has helped you. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see. Make sure to like and subscribe so that it also supports the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Come again.